When I originally sat down to script episode 9 of this show's first season about a single SNES title I played in my younger days, I had no idea how huge the franchise had become, or how long I'd spend covering its characters. Most of the games we talk about on this show get 1, maybe 2 entries. These are obscure rosters for a reason, after all. But this is a fairly prolific series that I somehow haven't seen talked about with the same frequency as underdog contemporaries like Samurai Showdown or even Bloody Roar. It's been a wild ride dipping into it these last 3 years, but now it's finally come time to say goodbye as we explore the remainder of the Goketsuji series. I'm Eric J. Chucky, and welcome to Violent Profiles, where we discuss obscure fighting games and the rosters that define them. If you could marry your cursor to the like and subscribe buttons, hold a tournament of sharing the video among your friends, and leave a comment letting me know your favorite entry in the franchise, I think that'd be cool. So does YouTube, and it's the cheapest way to support this show. Thanks! Before we begin our lore coverage of the series, I want to touch ever so briefly on the mechanics. The Goketsuji series rocks. I don't understand why they aren't more universally regarded in the same esteem as Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat, never mind slightly less popular mainstays like Guilty Gear and Fatal Fury. Yes, these games are good. Yes, they deserve a comeback. Yes, you should check them out if you can. SHIN GOKETSUJI ICHIZOKU Tokon Matrimelee dropped in arcades and on the Neo Geo system in 2003, designed by Noise Factory and published by Playmore. SHIN GOKETSUJI ICHIZOKU BOONO KAIHO was a Japan exclusive developed and published by Noise Factory in 2006, and the final entry is Goketsuji Ichizoku Matsuri SENZO KUYO, another Japan exclusive which dropped in arcades in 2009 thanks to Noise Factory, of course, Atlus, and Sega. All were one-on-one fighters, ditching the tag team tactics in previous entries and returning to the series' original flavor. There was a final game called CR Goketsuji Ichizoku, but that was a card reader pachinko title, so even if there's something to talk about there, we're not discussing it on this show. I don't give a hoot about pachinko. Sorry, Bob Barker.
Bitch.
The plots of these games are simple, but a lot of what we're discussing today builds on the previous titles. If you haven't at least seen the original Power Instinct video, maybe check that out before continuing on with this one so you have the necessary context. Matrimelee is an event held by the king of a certain country. Or maybe they're not being vague and he's the king of certain country, capital C, capital C. In either case, he's looking for a good spouse for either of his eligible children to help usher his kingdom into a bright and shining future once he passes. This is followed by a second tournament for the remixed port BOONO KAIHO, held purely for the amusement of the princess, with a fill-in-the-blank Calypso from Twisted Metal style prize on the line. Finally, Senzo Kuyo sees Goketsuji leader Ume holding a competition in honor of their clan's ancestors, with the rumor that the living god of the family may be present, and the winner might get to meet this legendary figure. We'll see what past characters are up to before we dive into all the new ones, finishing stories from previous episodes as much as there really is anything to finish. In the first video, I mistakenly covered some details that were pulled from the manga. I hope you enjoyed that because I'm not doing it anymore. That was technically a mistake. I don't usually talk about supplemental material on this show. Oops. Let's begin with White Buffalo because he was one of my favorites from the earlier Power Instinct titles. This was more for his basic personality than any deep story beats or impressive endings. Deep story isn't really what you get from Goketsuji, and their endings are mostly goofy little jokes, kinda like you'd find in Tekken FMVs. Or Ergites. For example, when White Buffalo sees that Princess Sissy is 12 years old, he elects to take her maid as his spouse instead, citing, "I hate kids, a man after my own heart." If he wins the tourney that earns him a wish from the king, as a fan of animals and shiny trinkets, he obviously chooses a lovely Tanuki statue, with a nice round belly. Get it? Because, actually I don't get it. You know, there's a lot of horrific implications if you think too hard about the many adult characters in Matrimelee being offered to marry a 12-year-old as their reward for victory, but it's almost entirely played for a goof. Nobody actually gets married to anybody, most of them don't seem into it, and none of them do it for the reason you might fear, which is mirrored when the lady combatants find victory and are offered the hand of the prince. While he is of age, the king has deemed him unsuitable to rule, and would much rather have his daughter take the throne, but so long as his potential wife is capable enough to make up for the prince's shortcomings, he's fine with that too. Let's take Kurata Hanano Koji for example. They renamed her Clara in this game, but I learned how to pronounce Kurata 2 years ago, and damn it, I'm putting that education to use while it's still relevant. She's expecting the prince to be devilishly handsome, but when it's revealed he's Dennis Knight in a powdered wig, Kurata denies she's the winner of the tournament and beats a hasty retreat. That doesn't stop her from coming back the second time around to see her wish fulfilled, taking complete control of the Happy Land theme park and experiencing it to her heart's content. Still looking for love, she hopes the Senzo Kuyo will bring her that happiness, though like most who participate in the ancestors' commemoration, she walks away disappointed. See, unlike the other games with their oddball character-specific endings, no matter who you beat Senzo Kuyo with, the progenitor of the clan Shinjiro Goketsuji says he had fun, and wishes away while Ume and the winner exchange 2 lines in a final gag. Some of them are funny enough to make you exhale through your nose, most of them don't bear mentioning, hence why I'm covering them for the first and last time just now.
Disappointed!
Kanji Kokuin wasn't actually invited to Matrimelee and stole an invitation from another potential fighter. If he wins, he tries to give Princess Sissy his signature red fundoshi and she rebuffs him. Wise girl. His wish for the next tournament is to grow more hair to attract the ladies, as apparently certain country is famous for their miracle hair tonic. It works well, but Kanji doesn't seem impressed with his new style. On the subject of octogenarians, let's discuss series mainstays Ume and Tane Goketsuji. No longer feuding and not yet strapped together, the sisters are pursuing their own interests, with Ume seeking great fortune and Tane looking for happiness. The prince has no interest in either of them, but perhaps the certain country style is what inspires Tane to hold a western ball, complete with gown and doting suitor. I hope it brings her joy commensurate to the amount Ume feels when she gets to go to space, inspired to become the strongest person in the solar system. These endings are very silly. You know who else is silly? Poochie. Yeah, I bet if you didn't see the first video, you got a lot of questions right about now. Well, I'm not answering them, go watch it. Making his final solo appearance in Matrimelee because he stole Kintaro's invitation to the tourney, while he is excited to wed the 12-year-old princess, it turns out she isn't into dogs. That's a sentence I never thought I'd have to say. We now logically segue into Saizo Hattori because, Poochie understands Saizo's secret language. Sure. Saizo has done a lot of work with his trauma and is now capable of appearing in public without his helmet. When he's invited to Matrimelee, he thinks getting a girlfriend might help him completely overcome his sociophobia. That doesn't work out. He smoke bombs away upon meeting Princess Sissy, although he's wedged himself among these fish-faced sumo wrestlers as part of his escape, so he's clearly overcome some of his anxiety. His prize in BOONO KAIHO is to create his own private ninja gym megaplex so he can sharpen his skills without having to be near anyone else. Saizo is so dang relatable. Shinen is back and seems amenable to taking a child bride, most likely for the absurd amount of power it would bring him. Sissy isn't a fool though and lures him in only to batter him with the old spring-loaded boxing glove and a handheld treasure chest gag. Never gets old. Should he win the second tournament, his wish is to travel the world and eat food from every country, earning him a nice round belly. Man, if I had a nickel for every time a nice round belly was involved in a BOONO KAIHO ending.
I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice, right?
Our next fighter is Annie Hamilton, now wearing a lovely headscarf that I'm given to understand is somewhat controversial. The original artist insisted her haircut was intrinsic to her character design, and a number of fans would agree. She joins Matrimelee not to win, but to chase the object of her affection, who has also entered. Should she succeed, she tricks the prince into kissing her dog, Andy, and forfeits her victory. In BOONO KAIHO, she engages in a beauty regimen to make herself more comely for her would-be beau, revealing the return of her signature hairstyle as the result. Although she's back in the scarf in SENZO KUYO, so I suspect her efforts weren't met with success. That future husband is the American Keith Wayne, now looking much more like his future son, Chris. Or maybe Chris has been unmade thanks to Solus messing with the timeline, because despite Groove on Fight requiring Keith and Annie to have already gotten together to create a child by now, they haven't. In fact, Keith is still a playboy. In BOONO KAIHO, his reward is a dream vacation with many beautiful women, and in Matrimelee, the princess is warned of his philandering ways by her maid. The final returning Goketsuji character in Matrimelee is the hot-blooded karate man from Yokohama, Japan, Reiji Oyama. In Matrimelee, he gifts his new wife with a sweet black belt. Again, please don't injure your experience by thinking about this too hard. Nobody is married to Princess Sissy or the prince in any of the sequels, so it clearly didn't happen. They both just like karate. For BOONO KAIHO, Reiji decides he wants to write, direct, and star in an action movie. To be a man. It's too bad the secret guest characters from Rage of the Dragons aren't in any of the other titles but Matrimelee. Maybe famed action movie director Johnny Jones could have helped him. 3 others are also here. Lynn Baker, who was brought in alongside Chinen, who was friends with her grandfather and replaces him after he has too much to eat and falls asleep. Elias Patrick, a friend of the Hamilton family since they made a huge donation to his church, who steps in to fight for Annie while she's taking a shower. And Jimmy Lewis, who is simply homies with White Buffalo. All are unlocked by codes and none have unique endings, instead showing Princess Sissy and her brother discussing a second turning. I made an effort to thoroughly cover the Rage of the Dragons characters before this final episode because of these 4, but their involvement is way more minimal than I expected, so I guess if you want to know more about them or the other fighters from that Double Dragon inspired title, check out its video. It's pretty good. 2 more Goketsuji standards are reintroduced in BOONO KAIHO, the first we'll cover being my ancient pantsless rival Kintaro Kokuin. He fulfills his dreams of becoming a Sentai hero when he wins, earning a giant robot which he immediately breaks.
Good.
He deserves to enjoy nothing. Terrible child. The little miscreant even steals pocket money from his granduncle to enter into the Senzo Kuyo tournament. Oh, how I loathe Kintaro. On a much lovelier note, we also get back Angela Belty. She turned down Matrimelee because she was already in a relationship, but the BOONO KAIHO tourney sees her entering to get a brand new pet white tiger, who she names Menino. I love her. Alright. That's all the characters from previous games. We can move on to Who's New, covering their backstories as well as the goofy endings and circumstances of their participation in these last 3 titles. Let's see how many characters we have to cover here.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9,
10, 11, 12.
Hey, that's about a standard size roster. Not bad at all for 10 minutes into the video. Allons-y. The final boss of Matrimelee seems like a good place to begin since we've talked about her quite a bit. Princess Sissy. Canonically, that tournament ends in failure, maybe because Sissy fights too well, with pink bombs, a laser gun that turns its victims into frogs, and a treasure chest full of various items, the same one the boxing glove that walloped Chinen came out of. The princess shares the generic ending with the Rage of the Dragons characters in Matrimelee and doesn't appear to have one in BOONO KAIHO, which makes sense as she's a hidden character and just enjoys fighting for fighting's sake. Even in SENZO KUYO, she's one of the few who are happy to win. Another pair of siblings in the Goketsuji universe, Matrimelee introduces Buntaro and Shintaro Kuno. Buntaro is a popular high school student and has a gaggle of groupies who praise his every move. His art is also hella different from the way he's portrayed in-game. He joins not to earn the princess's hand, but to hopefully meet his hero, Reiji Oyama. If he's victorious, this is not followed up on. He just gets exploded by an accidental trap released by Sissy, and his groupies suddenly think she's way cooler than he is. Probably because it messes up his hair. In BOONO KAIHO, he requests a collection of moving anime, and the intro alone is so powerful that he's brought to tears. Buntaro's fighting style is mostly kicks and dives, in contrast to his younger brother Shintaro, who mostly punches, except for his sweet bicycle kick move. As little brothers often do, Shintaro joins Buntaro in Matrimelee for the same reason, to meet Reiji. Again, this isn't addressed in the ending, and Princess Sissy seems to have some distaste for the younger Kuno, turning him into a frog as his reward for victory. Described as a motorcycle enthusiast, winning BOONO KAIHO sees him designing a bike of his dreams, which looks more like a weird Vespa than the cool chopper I expected. So long as he's happy. Fellow student of the St. Lawrence Academy, Hikaru Jomon is a tomboyish cane fighter and was genuinely one of my favorite of the new characters to play. She was raised in a very masculine family and prefers to fit in with that crowd, finding ultra-feminine people with high-pitched voices to be incredibly annoying. She's often mistaken for a boy because of her demeanor and is even offered Princess Sissy's hand in her Matrimelee ending instead of the prince. Of course, she wants neither, she just wanted to show off to the world how cool cane fighting is. Her prize for winning the second tourney is a custom cane of unique metal, black lacquered and diamond studded. Surely it will bring her great victory in future conflicts. The final newcomer from Matrimelee is Olaf Linderoth, who is giving Bristol Weller in his look and moveset. As Sissy's bodyguard, he's happy to enter Matrimelee for her amusement, but he has no design on either the princess or the throne. Instead, he chooses to have a beautiful flower garden planted to make the world a better place. He also joins the following tournament, this time to achieve his dream of owning a ridiculous number of hamsters. Good look, cool fighting style, adorable dreams. This is the kind of character I really appreciate from the Goketsuji series. Exclusive to the BOONO KAIHO entry, Bobby Ologun is a real guy. Not a great guy, but to Noise Factory's credit, most of his controversies happened after his stint as part of the Goketsuji franchise. I'm not digging into his actual life. He has a Wikipedia article if you're interested. Here, he's a boxer hired by the king of certain country to be the final opponent for the second challenge. All of the new Matrimelee fighters return in SENZO KUYO, but they're secret characters who aren't part of the story, and that game's ending sucks, so there's nothing to say about them in that context. But we do have 6 more new fighters to enjoy. This series has a thing for siblings, especially twins. Sandra Belty joins SENZO KUYO to discern the secret of progenitor Shinjuro Goketsuji's long life. Although rude and self-indulgent, she gets along with her sister Elizabeth, who joins at Umei's invitation, curious to learn the deepest secrets of the notorious Goketsuji family. Elizabeth is a fixture in high society and a researcher of the supernatural who slaps you around with a hand fan, while Sandra fights with an umbrella. Or maybe that's the other way around. The games can't even seem to agree on which of these ladies is Angela's grandmother and which is her great aunt. I don't know, maybe you shouldn't have so many twins in your games? Each has their own super form where they become a young and conventionally attractive fencer who is down to swap to either a flail or a lance if need be, depending on which sister is shifting shape. Saizo's younger cousin, Takumi Hattori, is a military enthusiast who combines this knowledge and a love of traps with his family's ninja skills. His mother enlisted him in the tournament, worried he'll become as riddled with anxiety as Saizo if he doesn't get some proper socialization. He's a solid little runt. I prefer more reach on my normals, but he's quick enough and has cool specials, plus he looks like Bobby Hill in a gas mask.
That's my purse! I don't know you!
I kinda dig him. As much as young people typically upset me, this one has the decency to wear clothes and do murders, so it puts him several magnitudes above Kintaro. Maybe I've been too harsh on Damian Wayne all these years. Since we're all about family right now, let's discuss Rin Oyama, younger cousin of Reiji who has been training with him since the age of 4. Now 16, she's ready to pursue the life of a stoic karate master. A capable fighter who changes stances to access different special moves, the most noteworthy thing about her is the controversy over her relation to Reiji. She was initially described as his niece, and since Power Instinct is a popular franchise with several manga adaptations, folks were aware of Reiji's family tree, which lacked any possibility of such a relation. Atlas eventually corrected themselves, though Rin does still call Reiji Oji-san, which means uncle. But then again, many young people call me Onk and are of no relation to me at all. Before we get to the final boss of the Goketsuji franchise, I'm delighted to finally talk about the Prince of Certain Country, who becomes playable in Senzo Kuyo. Terrified of the other combatants in previous tournaments, the prince joins the final game because he thought the festival was like a jolly good fun fair, not a full contact combat tournament. I appreciate that he commits, even if he frequently summons his loyal knights to do the fighting for him. The prince is a foppish dandy, and even when he ascends to his super form, he pirouettes and prances about the battlefield. His special moves include enjoying a banquet dinner and jumping off the bed, and he even takes time to dust off his pantaloons after picking himself up off the ground. I love this guy. The prince is too good for this world, too pure. If they ever make another title, the prince has to be included. He is the apotheosis of Goketsuji's sense of humor and celebration of the weird. At long last, I mentioned Shinjiro Goketsuji before as the little withered old mummy dude in the Senzo Kuyo endings. He's the final boss who founded the Goketsuji clan. Son of an unrivaled Edo-era samurai named Jubei, he was told he would only earn his family's name if he became as strong as his father before the patriarch left to continue his training. After Shinjiro's mother passed, he failed to find his father and prove his skill before the old man also passed, though he had earned his own reputation as a capable warrior. Shinjiro eventually fell in love with a distant relative of another prominent samurai and fathered 8 children. As the Edo period became the Meiji era, Shinjiro was finally allowed to establish a last name and chose something loaded with significance to honor the fighting spirit of his bloodline. I guess at some point he got turned into an Oni who uses a wheel shield thing and magic spirit electricity powers instead of a katana or whatever. It's a pretty oppressive moveset for a final boss, but not absurdly so. His design is nice in its simplicity, but he's no prince. And that, my friends, is the end of the line for Power Instinct. Noise Factory has said they'd like to do something else in the Goketsuji series, but have been turned down due to the way political correctness has shifted since 2009. In a lot of ways that makes sense, but I think it would be possible to revisit these characters with the more problematic portions circumvented. Unfortunately, I don't have the money to back the game myself, so it's ultimately up to potential publishers whether it earns another entry. Here's hoping we see it again some sunny day. Next month on Violent Profiles, you'll get the Season 3 compilation video, but after that, it's time for Season 4. I've had a new lengthy game series on my mind lately, and I think after ending this season with the final Goketsuji entry, it's only appropriate to begin the next one with a twisted new franchise. If you'd like to get episodes a month early and see that season start before anyone else, venture to yonder Patreon and subscribe at the $5 tier. Not only do you get a bunch of exclusive stuff, but your name will go in the high scores currently on screen, and you'll earn a shout out on our other programs. Also, my eternal gratitude. $5 is pretty cheap for eternal gratitude. Seriously, thank you all for watching Season 3. There was a time when I didn't think we'd accomplish the initial 12 episodes, and look at where we are now. Until next time, White out.